Thanks. Always good to have a lot of people discipline you during a meeting. Speaking of meetings, if there was a nice article in the Post-Star that explained nothing about open meetings in the future, except that they extended it for 30 days, which is to our benefit today.
Yeah, the way it works, Ken, is the ability to hold remote only meetings coincides directly with the state of emergency. So once the state of emergency can only be 30 days. So that's why it's renewed every 30 days. If the governor decides in April not to extend the state of emergency, then automatically, unless there is a law passed, which people are trying to get passed, the ability to do remote only meetings goes away. That's why they're related. I didn't read the article in the Post-Star, but that's how they're interrelated.
Okay, thank you. Justin, how are we doing?
I think we're good.
Okay. With that, I will say good morning, everyone. This is meeting number 514 of the Lake George Park Commission, Tuesday, March 22nd, being held by Zoom facilities. We have a almost full board as far as attendance this morning. And we have a quorum, I believe. Is Michelle, are you on?
I am, yes.
Okay, we're all set.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting. We all had a chance to review the minutes of the previous meeting. Any comments or changes? Otherwise, a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion seconded. All in favor signify with the. All in favor.
Aye.
Motion carried to accept the minutes of the January 2022 meeting. Fiscal actions report and expenditures is for January and February 2022. We did not have a meeting in February, so I think unless someone has a comment, we could move to approve both of those reports with one motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion seconded. All in favor signify. Motion made, seconded, and carried. We have a resolution 2022-14 regarding a shelter at the South Bay location. Joe, do you have a copy of that resolution?
Yes, I do.
Would you read it,
Yeah.
please? Or perhaps we should
You want to
discuss the need of it first. David?
I apologize, Ken. I was catching up on something else. Can you say that again?
No problem. We're going to do the resolution for the South Bay shelter. Perhaps we should do a thumbnail reason for it.
Yeah, Justin, you're online, right? You want to provide some overview? Justin's done most of the work on this project.
Yeah, sure. So in the years past, we've operated a boat inspection station in concert with the Hewlett Landing Marina. And this year we're gonna move that equipment out to the South Bay boat launch, which is a DEC property on Route 22 in Whitehall, New York. The goal is to provide the same level of service to the residents of Hewlett's Landing and those who are traveling there. It's a pretty convenient location for them to pull in and get an inspection. But the benefit is we are able to also provide inspection and decontamination of boats coming to and leaving Lake Champlain. There's a good number of boaters who frequent Lake Champlain and then come to Lake George. So by operating at that location, we can sort of push that boundary of protection a little bit further out and provide a better service to a greater number of boaters. An added benefit is by operating that site, the Adirondack Watershed Institute, working with the New York State DEC, they previously operated that location. They can relocate their equipment and their staff to a location that is not covered in the Adirondack Park. So we there's a lot of benefit to moving to that location.
And when will we be, what are the days and the hours that we'll be operating?
So the goal is to be open 7 days a week from May 1st through October 31st, which is the regulated boating season. And the hours are we're gonna shoot for 7 a.m. Through hopefully 7 p.m. in May, June, May, September, and October, and 7 to 9 p.m. In June, July, and August. Of course, that will be dependent on the number of staff that we can hire for that location. So if anyone's looking for a boat and inspection job in the Whitehall area, just shoot me an email. But at this point, it's still a little bit loose. We've got a handful of staff. We could certainly use some more.
Okay, thank you. Joe Stanek, you have a resolution?
Yeah, resolution 2022-14. Whereas the Lake George Park Commission administers mandatory boat inspection requirements pursuant to 6 NY CR 646-9. And whereas the commission staff has identified and recommended specific operational changes which would affect the regional boat inspection stations located at Dunham's Bay Marina, Queensberry, Hewlett's Landing Marina, and Dresden, beginning with the start of the 2022 boat inspection season. And the recommendation changes would include reduced inspection station hours at Dunham's Bay and the relocation of boat inspection services undertaken at Hewlett's Landing Marina to a new commission-operated inspection station at the South Bay Boat Launch. And whereas the staff recommendations and justification are provided in the attached document, which includes the site-specific data showing declining inspection volumes, low decontamination rates, and program benefits and future cost estimates. And whereas the establishment of the commission-operated inspection stations at South Bay requires the purchase and installation of seasonal inspection station office structure to provide shelter for both the staff and equipment. Now therefore be resolved, the commission hereby authorize the expenditure of funds not to exceed $15,000 for the purchase, delivery, and installation of a 12-by-16 seasonal office shelter. And be it resolved that the executive director is authorized to execute the purchase order for the said amount items. So moved.
Motion
Second.
made, motion seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion signify.
Hey, aye.
Any? Am I hearing a voice?
Yes, I hope you were.
That was Dean.
Oh, okay.
I get.
We've all signified and the motion's carried. Item 3, Lake George Park Commission Septic System Ad Hoc Committee update with an attached resolution, which I do not have. Does anybody have that resolution they'll be able to read when we get there?
We're actually not going to do the resolution today, Ken.
We're not doing the resolution today. So,
And I can talk to that if you'd like.
Good idea.
okay,
So I want to just, from a legal perspective, give a little update to the commission and the public as to where we are with respect to the septic system ad hoc committee and where we are moving forward with the proposed septic regulations. As you know, this is something that has been going on for a year and a half with monthly meetings. The ad hoc committee has been meeting and involved a host of individuals and people a whole lot smarter than I am with respect to all the technical aspects of it, and has come up with a good program. What we are doing at this point is we're in the process of, we've drafted the regulations based on the input from the ad hoc committee and technical review. We have submitted those to DEC and to DOH, who have both been heavily involved since the beginning of this and had very good input and are working with us tremendously well in this case. What we intend to do, the next steps going forward, if you recall, we had declared ourselves lead agency, And that happened in the January meeting. There's been nothing, no agency has indicated they would like to take it over. So at this point, the 30 days has passed, and the next step for the seeker process is for you to review the parts 2 and parts 3 and ascertain whether or not there is, a positive declaration or a negative declaration. The resolution with respect to the seeker process is intended on the April agenda. At the April agenda, we are also hoping to have a resolution before the commission advising and allowing me to submit all of the regulations and the SAPA documents to Albany. Albany then looks at all of those documents, and then they will tell us, yes, these are good to go. And at that point, we are permitted to release the actual language of the regulations to the public. If you recall, both with stormwater and with stream corridor, the regulations have to be approved by Albany before we can submit them to the public. That being said, it's merely the language of the regulations, the intent, the ideas, everything that is incorporated into the proposed regulations has been up on the Park Commission's website. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but they are all up there and you can look at them, and the commission, as always, has been transparent with respect to this process. The commission has also put together all of the SAPA documents. If you recall, there are specific documents under the State Administrative Procedure Act that are required in order to have a regulation adopted. Those have been drafted. They're in the process of being reviewed. Again, DEC and DOH are acting as partners really in this. Pursuant to the statute, we are required to have their approval, and to date, they have been very well received and working very well with us. So the goal is at the April meeting, you will have 2 actions before you. We will conduct the seeker, and then we will, if all goes with a negative declaration, the next resolution you would adopt would be to allow us to send everything down to Albany, submit it for review by the governor's office. And then once the governor's office comes back and says, you're good to go, then we submit it to the state register. It goes out to the state register. It is publicized. And 2 months after that, between 45 and 60 days after that, the commission will hold the official public hearing on this. The hope is that we will be having these public hearings this summer. But again, we cannot control Albany, nor how fast they will review things, and there are statutory requirements. So the goal is that we are going to have these reviewed this summer so that they'll be in place for next year. That's where we are. We have a lot of support from the municipalities. We have support from DEC and DOH, and we are moving forward with this. So with respect to that, that's kind of where we are with the septic regulations. I am happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Commissioners, any questions?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, those were.
Dave, did I miss anything?
No, I think that's a good overview. We just want to thank all the people. We have 14 people on our ad hoc committee that have been helping us through this process, and we appreciate all their work on it.
Yeah, they really did. They were consistent in their attendance for 9 or 10 long months of a meeting at least once a month, and they didn't just sit there. They talked and they gave us ideas, and we come up with I think the best product that we possibly could. Okay.
Carla, our hearings, Carla, we think the time frame will be good for late summer perhaps, or fall?
Yes, that's our game plan. If we can have the resolution in April, we can submit it the very next day to Albany. And then unfortunately, we are at the whim of Albany, but if Albany gets back to us within a month, we should be able to have, let's say, August, September, be able to have our public hearings.
What
A
time
worst
frame?
case.
I'm sorry, Ken.
a worst case scenario, could we do a Zoom public hearing?
That depends on whether or not the state of emergency is continued.
Okay. Thank you.
And Dave, I think you were going to ask the time period from when we get it back from Albany, once we get it approved into the state register, which would be 2 weeks after we get it back from Albany, then it's a 60-day period before when it's open for public comment. And then they come forward, we have the public hearing, and then within a month of the public hearing, we can move forward and adopt the regulations.
Okay, and we're hoping for, if all goes well, a spring, early summer, perhaps implementation.
Right.
That's assuming everything goes as
The
we.
way it should be. Yeah.
Right.
Luck.
Well, we'll continue reporting on this on as much as possible on a monthly basis and keep everybody informed. Something's always going on with it.
Right.
Item number 4 on our agenda is Procelicor Milfoil Control Trial Project, and that's under Mr. Wick's domain.
Thanks, Ken. This, I just want to have more for commissioner questions, if they have any. We've been talking about Procelicor as a possibility to help us with milfoil control in Lake George. Our first presentation was Lee Walrath last April. We're looking at 2 trial sites. All this information is on our website. One being Glen Burnie and Blair's Bay, the other being Sheep Meadow Bay. Yeah, so I think this has been in the papers a few times. There's no drinking water impacts, no other plant or animal impacts. 30 lakes so far in New York State have applied this, 50 in New Hampshire, about 250 nationwide. We've completed detailed plant surveys of both sites. We're going to be repeating those plant surveys following the treatments. We do have the DEC permits for both sites. We're looking at the APA permits being pending right now. The LGPC approval comes at the April meeting. We have right now, we're out to a request for proposals for applicators. And those dates to come back, I believe, are April 15th. So that gives the commission enough time to evaluate and provide a recommendation for review and approval. If we do get approved by APA, then our board is approving us to move in this direction. We'd be looking at early June application. These are very quick. They're both very small sites. We'd be looking at about a half hour to 45 minutes per site. Basically both sites would be done in one day. Just a little bit on the product itself. It goes down at about 7 parts per billion. And for those folks that were around for the original sonar treatment, proposal back in the day, this is 1/1000th of that dosage rate. So we're looking at just a scale of difference in what this product is versus what the previous, I guess back in 2000, what the recommendation was for sonar or renovate. So, it's a next generation herbicide. It's actually, it's called an auxin mimic. It's an aquatic plant growth hormone that doesn't have any other non-target impacts with the exception of native milfoil and some short-term impacts on a form of water lily called water shield, which we don't have in our treatment areas. So we've been reaching out considerably to all parties that are interested in this as a topic. Many conversations with the experts that have been working on this and in regular touch with New Hampshire and also the DEC pesticide folks down in Albany. We've learned quite a bit. We think we're ready to give it a try up here in Lake George. Again, when they did the Minerva Lake treatment, that was exceptionally successful. They treated about 43 acres of Minerva Lake. They came back the next year, could not find one plant. And this is after they spent year after year after year of $70,000 with their traditional methods and weren't really gaining a lot of ground. So it's just something I think the commission, should be giving thought to trying. Of course, we spent some time on getting to where we are right now, and it makes sense. We've had some conversations with Lake George Association, some of the Jefferson County Project people, and we've offered during the trial applications, if they choose to do any level of sampling or study or whatever they would like to do, we're going to be a full partner in that. So We think it makes sense, and we're just here to answer any questions today from our commissioners. If you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, that would be great. Please let me know and we can go over it in whatever detail that you like. Again, a lot of the resources are on our website in terms of different states' reviews, approvals, and I think it's a good concept for giving a trial to here on Lake George. So with that, thank you, Ken. I can answer any questions from the commissioners.
Dave, I'll go first. Will we continue doing milfoil harvesting as we've known it in other parts of the lake?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. That's a great point. I forgot to mention. So what we want to make sure that people understand is even if we're successful with our trials and we want to try it in other parts of the lake, this is in no way a replacement for our traditional programs, which is diver assisted suction harvesting, which has been proven to be costly but effective in many areas of the lake. What we're talking about are areas that have not responded well, particularly some of the larger bays that we are spending literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in over the last few years. And we're still not gaining a lot of ground. We gain ground and then it comes back shortly thereafter. We have to remember that we've spent a collective $1.3 million in just the last 3 years. A lot of that was thanks to a grant that we received with Warren County. Other funding has been the Lake George Association, the Fund for Lake George. But the level of funding that we had is just unsustainable. And we made excellent ground with those efforts. And in many areas, they really hold up pretty well, whether it's Clay Island or some areas in Northwest Bay. Warner Bay is doing very well. Other ones that we've really been challenged with. So if this area that we treat these 2 sites are successful, which we believe they will be, then we'd like to expand those for some of the problematic areas. But certainly we're managing an average of 35 to 40 sites per year. The vast majority of those would continue through this methodology and not be going with the herbicide. This would just be something to get these difficult areas under control. And then we would follow it up. That's part of our application to DEC and APA is we were to treat these 2 sites. We would follow up every year to make sure that no plants come back. If they do start to come back, we will keep those down to very minimal. So thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Dave?
Justin, I'm going to use you as my eyes to identify and call upon the commissioners with questions.
Sure.
Please.
So Kathy had her hand up first. So Kathy.
Thanks, Justin.
Sure.
I have a question regarding the concentration of the application. Now, I've told you in the past that I'm very familiar with Minerva Lake, and they used a little over 3.5 parts per billion of the Procellacor, and that lake was completely infested with the plant. We're proposing to use double that concentration. Has there been any kind of discussion of bringing it down to the amount that was used in Minerva Lake? Unless I have never seen the milfoil in either of those bays, so I'm not aware if it's that worse than what was going on in Minerva Lake, but I would think it would be nice to start with the smallest concentration possible.
Yeah, it's a good question, Kathy. So it's actually, they don't really gauge the application rate by parts per billion per se. They use dosage called PDUs, which accounts for water depth as well. So what happens is you apply the herbicide into the water column, and Minerva Lake is very shallow. So there's a lot less dilution. And the areas that we're looking at are deeper. So the herbicide has to get down to the plants, and it's going to spread out over a little bit larger of an area. As Glenn Sullivan explained it to me, and I can have him give you guys a dissertation at any time that you'd like, because I got educated on it from him. If you applied at that lower rate that Minerva Lake did, by the time it got to the plants, it would be below the target dosage rate. And that would be a problem because no one wants to see an application like this be applied and then fail, because ultimately it got down below the target dosage rate by the time it got to the plants. So, and again, when we're talking a doubling, we're still talking 7 parts per billion as opposed to 4 parts per million with the old sonar. So again, 1,000 times less for an herbicide that is much more selective than sonar ever was.
And thank you, Dave. And one other thing, the water shield lily is not in those 2 areas. So are there any other indigenous native plants that could be affected by this? Because I know that the studies have shown that it may kill off some other native plants.
The only other plant of concern is identified by DEC and APA and also by Solitude Lake Management is native milfoil. And native milfoil in New York State is on the rare and endangered species list. However, it is common in Lake George, as shown by Darren Freshwater Institute studies from a long time ago. I think it was back into the 1990s. Bob Bombard worked with Lee Walrath and also Brian up at DEC to talk about that topic and present them with the information, and said then they were fine with this not being, we're not going to go in these two sites and wipe native milfoil out from the lake. We are treating, again, 4 acres and an overall surface acre of the lake of 28,000 acres. And if we found it at those 2 sites, those 2 tiny sites, clearly it's abundant everywhere else in the lake. Water Shield does, even if it's in the area, does come back by the end of the season. That's been shown time and time again as evidenced by the DEC reviews, but we don't even have that in the areas that we're treating. So that wouldn't be a concern. There was no other plants that were of concern that this product affects. And that's according not to me, but also to DEC, Adirondack Park Agency, and of course, all the other states that have reviewed this. So the reason that it's been approved by 49 out of 50 states is that CPRO has not sought approval for Alaska because there is no milfoil that's been identified in Alaska, but every other state has approved this herbicide for use.
And my third question, thank you, is who will be the lead agency that's going to undertake the study after this has been applied? And how long will the study take to make sure there are no environmental negative impacts from putting on the Procelacor?
Yeah, so that's required in the permits. So DEC and APA both require follow-up sampling to make sure the dosage rates are ultimately gone and dissipated in the water. And the Adirondack Park Agency requires follow-up plant surveys to identify if there were any non-target impacts, and if so, what were those level of impacts? You heard Glenn Sullivan speak at our January meeting about Snyder's Lake in North Greenbush, a little bit about, he didn't speak on Glen Lake, but Glen Lake was treated, Saratoga Lake, Minerva Lake. They haven't found non-target impacts. Speaking with Brian Primo and the DEC pesticides people, they haven't found any non-target impacts as well. But we have to do that follow-up, as noted in our permits. And we also, when I spoke with John Kelly from the Jefferson Project the other day, I said, we invited them to be a part of any follow-up if they wanted to be, whether it's plant analyses or chemical analyses, we'd welcome that.
That's awesome, because I would feel that having those scientists involved with the Jefferson Project would just bring us a little more, make us feel a lot better about what's going down. Thank you, Dave. That was great.
Thanks, Kathy.
Dave,
Sure.
I assume that our April meeting for the Park Commission will be after the APA review. Will we have documentation at that point from the APA?
We're scheduled right now to be on the April 13th, 14th APA agenda. So their decision should come at that meeting. And then on the 15th, the commission's RFP, request for proposals for applicators, is due. So Joe, we should have everything all set for the April, let me check, date of that meeting.
26th.
April 26th meeting. So that will give us plenty of time to get the information out to the commissioners for your consideration.
Good.
Any other commissioners? Bill?
I just didn't want to double check. I know I heard this, that you said this before. You have notified all of the residents and the communities that where this is going to be applied. And have you heard, I know you heard back from the municipal leaders from all around the lake in a meeting that you had and received more or less positive reinforcement on going forward with this. Have we gotten community input that is different from that? What can you just sum it up? What you're hearing?
We've heard no negative comments from the communities that were informed as per the required DEC and APA processes. We did have a very good Zoom call with the folks up in Glen Burnie. Peg Olson, she lives up in Glen Burnie. She's also the president or director of the Adirondack Nature Conservancy, so she's well informed on topics like this. Glenn and I spent maybe an hour with the Glen Burnie folks going through all this and all level of detail that they had questions on. And at the end of the conversation, they were comfortable that this wasn't going to impact their drinking water supply or the native plants in that area. So we haven't ourselves received negative comments, but the comments that are going to come back on the project are going to go to the regulatory agencies themselves. They're going to go to APA and DEC. Talking with Brian Primo from DEC, he did not receive any negative comments regarding our application. APA, I haven't been in touch with Lee Walrath. I know they've received about 15 comments in support from different lake associations, the Adirondack Park Invasive Plant Program, the Adirondack Lakes Alliance, again, and several other lake associations around the park. As we benefited from the Minerva Lake treatment, the Glen Lake treatment, the Saratoga Lake treatment, other lakes are looking at Lake George and saying, you know, we have some resources to do the best that we can do to take a look at this, do it right, and study it afterwards. And that's only going to be a benefit to other lakes that are looking to possibly go in this direction for the future. So they support what we're trying to do here, knowing that this could really help perhaps long-term for their lakes as well.
Anybody else? Very good. Thank you. Thank you, David. And thank you, everybody, for your input. We will move on to project review actions report. We'll let Joe Tuen and Joe Stanek deal with that this morning. Are you both here?
Yep.
Okay. Do we want to do the resolution first?
Okay. Resolution 2022-08, accept the project review actions report. Whereas the commission has received and reviewed the project review actions report prepared by the staff and dated on March 15th, 2022. And whereas the project review committee recommends acceptance of the project review actions report, now therefore be resolved that the commission directs the project review actions report be incorporated in the minutes of the full commission meeting. So moved.
Motion made, motion seconded. All in favor signify. No nays seen. Motion carried. Thank you. Joe Tuen, are you and whoever else, are you and Jason going to be sharing or what's up?
Yes, thank you. Actually, the first two projects on the agenda, Freihofer and Looney, are applications reviewed by Jason, where he's been working with the applicant. So I will turn it over to Jason to introduce the Freihofer application.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Commissioner. So this project is for a variance request for a mooring placement at a private lakefront at the address of 300 Cleverdale Road in the town of Queensbury. It's owned by Al Freihofer, who is here today. The application proposes placing a double tie mooring for a 20-foot sailboat and placing it parallel to the shore. The proposed placement would put one mooring ball and the length of the sailboat in the neighbor's shoreline perpendicular setback by approximately 25 feet. Both neighbors have expressed support for the project. No agencies have any jurisdiction besides LGPC. And we visited the site last Friday. It was staff, Commissioner Stanek, Mason, and Burns. And I now can give it to Al to speak a little bit about his project and the uniqueness and his proposed hardships. So when you're ready, Al.
Thank you, Jason. And thank you, Jason, very much for your help in helping me visualize where I went wrong in my initial application for a mooring. Thank you for entertaining this. Yeah, the issue I face is that I have about an 8-mile fetch of open water from Sagamore down to Cleverdale. And the way the mooring would be permitted would compel me to moor the boat east-west, really broadside to the prevailing north winds, which can be pretty testy. On a north wind, we get quite a good set of wind and rollers. So my hope is that I'll be able to simply pivot the boat to the south, so that it'll be facing into a north wind and more safely and secured This property directly to the south that Jason mentioned is my sister's house. She has consented a hearty approval for this in as much as the boat would be skewed to the south by, I think it's 20 or 20 feet or so into her buffer zone. But it really is just a question of safety. Mooring a boat east-west into a strong north wind in our neck of the woods is a challenge. You may ask, for goodness sakes, how'd you get yourself in this pickle? And I got into it. I retired from teaching. I looked at the regulations for moorings. I saw that I could, in fact, place a mooring in front of the house. But it wasn't until later that I learned and was coached up on the challenges of that right angle to the high water mark. And that's what really created my violation of my sister's buffer to the south. I thought it was just an extension of the property line. And I learned that that's not the case. So that's really why I'm here and just seeking permission and approval for this variance.
Okay, thank you. Is there
Thank you.
anybody in the audience today speaking for or against this project? Any additional comments? Hearing none. Joe, do we have a resolution?
Yes. Resolution 2022-09, approve variance for mooring placement. Application number is TWM 22-4004. This mooring placement applicant is Al Freihoffer. Whereas the applicant has applied for a permit to place a double tied mooring partially in the neighborhood's property setback, and the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. The commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-3.6 and the State Environmental Quality Review Act of 6 NYCRR 617-0.5. And the project is a type 2 action, does not require further review of potential environmental impacts pursuant to this act. And whereas the action is considered to be a minor project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3, and public notice has been published and distributed, the applicant has requested a variance from 6 NYCRR 646-1.1 C12. Moorings shall be placed so the vessels moored to them at the full swing of the mooring or anchor line will be no closer than 20 feet to the projection of the property line extended into the lake along with the axis of the property lines as they intersect the lake, or a line extended at right angles to the mean high water mark, whichever results in the greater setback. Whereas the applicant has demonstrated that strict conformance with the regulations will cause an unnecessary hardship due to unique, peculiar circumstances which impose substantial financial, technical, and safety burdens. And whereas the commission finds that there is no reasonable possibility that the applicant's property, or if no property is involved, the continuation of the applicant's business, enterprise, use, or activity will bring a reasonable return following conformance with the regulation. And whereas the Park Commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now, therefore, resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby approves the request for variance and approves the above application as proposed. So moved.
Motion made, motion seconded. Any other comments by commissioners? Hearing none, signify with a signal of yes. All seen. Any nays? None seen. Motion's carried. Congratulations, Mr. Freihoffer.
Thank you. And I want to thank you as well. I've had the privilege of listening overhearing conversations relating to milfoil and septic. And thank you so much for your stewardship of this lake. Great work and hard work. And you don't need me to tell you that, but I just wanted to. Thank you so much.
It's always nice to hear that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's because we have a great staff. And next, dock modification. You're still with it, Jason?
Yep. So this is me. This would be for the Loonies. Bill Looney's here. today. And so when you're ready, Bill, you can unmute yourself and I'll give my little spiel and you can give yours. So this project is for a variance request for a dock modification at a private lakefront at the address of 353 Baldwin
That
Road,
work?
the town of Ticonderoga, owned
I
by
can't
Bill
hear
Rooney.
anything.
The application proposes widening a dock from 2.5 to 5 feet and
Yeah.
shortening its registered length from 56 feet to 48 feet. This results in an increase of 100 square feet total in the setback. The subject property is 35 feet wide in total, and the dock currently is on the northern setback to the neighbor. And the new proposed dock would expand away from the neighbor to the south. Both neighbors have also expressed support for the project. No other agencies have jurisdictions besides us. And Commissioner Cook had talked about visiting the site. He's up around that area. I don't know if you got out there, but staff did not visit last Friday. We got a good look with plans. So I can leave it to Bill now to speak his part. If you just want to explain some of your hardship and your proposed plans and when you're
Okay,
ready.
great. Good morning, everyone. And Jason, thank you very much for all your assistance during this. I greatly appreciate it. I don't know if everybody got a chance to review our application, but basically we have a 37-foot wide piece of property that is U-shaped. And currently we are permitted to have a 58-foot by 30-inch dock, which has proven to be somewhat difficult at times to use as we have a large family. And we also have handicapped members in our family. My mom, my mother-in-law, and my brother suffers with a bad hip. So our request right now is to modify the dock, shorten its permitted length from 56 feet to 48 feet, and widen the width from 30 feet to 30 inches to 5 feet. This would enable us to provide safe transfer for our handicapped family members. We also have a friend, a very close friend, who suffers from MS, and would enable us to get walkers, wheelchairs, and such on the dock. And the way the dock is situated right now, it's on the northern end of the property. It begins about 7 feet from my northern neighbor, and then it proceeds outward into the water to about 11 feet away from their property line. We have spoken with David Rouse, and he has no objection to the project. The dock would extend further south towards the George property. It would be about approximately 25 feet from their property line. They also have no objection to the project. There was a question of financial hardship, and the financial hardship would be is if we weren't able to have our dock at the location to afford dock rental space, or a boat at someplace else, the numbers would just be astronomical, and we would not be able to afford that. So we have been vacationing, my wife and I, who is here, Mary, we've been vacationing in the area for 30 years. We respect the area greatly. Finally happy to get our retirement home up in Ticonderoga. And we would love for you to approve this application if you could.
Thank you, Mr. Looney. Any comments from anyone in attendance in regards to this project?
Bill, just a clarification, since the dock is now piled on the shoreline and not in, there's that projection that projects out from what would be the north side of your property. Looks like about 6 to 7 feet from out into the lake versus the parallel shoreline. I'm assuming the dock goes on the end of that projection. There's a little triangle
That is correct.
on that, right?
Yes.
So we're talking about a dock that would be when it says projection into the lake would be longer than 46 feet, because you probably have to add, the way your front lawn or the front shoreline contours, it projects into the lake on the south side a little bit, goes parallel to your house till you get to the north side, and then projects back into the lake, probably 7 to 8 feet, it looks to me like. And so I assume your dock goes on the end of that.
Yes, on the northern end of the U-shaped piece of property is where the dock is located and attached. And currently it's 38 feet long. And
Okay.
we had been permitted to go 56, and we're requesting to have it at 48 feet.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none. Do we have a resolution, Commissioner Stanek?
Resolution 2022-10, approve a variance for dock modification. Application number is DWM 21-30138. Dock modification. Applicant is Bill Looney. Whereas the applicant has applied for a permit to widen the length of an existing dock in their neighborhood's property setback. And whereas the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record, and the commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NY CRR 645-3.6 and the State Environmental and Quality Review Act, the 6 NY CRR 617.5, that the project is a type 2 action, does not require any further potential environmental impacts pursuant to this act. And whereas the action is considered to be a minor project pursuant to 6 NY CRR 645-5.3, public notice has been published and distributed, and the applicant has requested a variance to 6 NY CRR 646-1.1 C11. Every dock or wharf constructed shall have a minimum setback of 20 feet from the adjacent property line extended into the lake on the same axis as the property line runs onshore where it meets the lake, or the right angle to the mean high water mark, whichever results in the greater setback. Whereas the applicant has demonstrated that the strict conformance with the regulation will cause no unnecessary hardship due to the unique and peculiar circumstances which impose substantial financial, technical, or safety burdens, and the commission finds that there is no reasonable possibility that the applicant's property, or if no property is involved, the continuation of the applicant's business enterprise, use, or activity will bring a reasonable return following conformance with the regulation. And the commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby approves the request for variance and approves the above application as so approved, as proposed, so moved.
Motion made.
Thank
I
you.
see a motion seconded.
I'll
Any
second.
comments by any commissioners on the motion made and seconded? Hearing none. All in favor signify by. Any nays? Hearing none. The motion is passed. And good luck, Mr. Looney.
Thank you, everybody, for all your hard work as well. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
And our final project is new tour boat application. And Joe, you have that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just for clarity for everyone, the Don Daly tour boat application was removed from the agenda. At Mr. Daly's request, he's going to revise his application to avoid the need for variance. And so we're moving on to the Gary Ethier tour boat. Mr. Ethier has submitted an application for a new tour boat operation. He proposes to operate out of Dunham's Bay Beach Club, which is authorized for 6 charter boats. Mr. Ethier was previously before us, I believe in October last fall, and proposed 2 tours per day from his tour boat. He has amended that application and now proposes to have a maximum of 1 tour ride per day. Some of the comments that came up last fall with respect to congestion in the bay, which is why Mr. Ethier reduced the scope of his project, and also with respect to parking at the facility. Although this is not a marina modification, the facility is authorized for this activity. We did want to take some time and review parking at the facility. Dave Wick and I have been in touch with Michael Chris, the landowner, as well as with the Town of Queensbury Planning Department and Highway Department. We've learned on our permit south of 9L, there's been some parking assigned to an area that's a riparian area next to Dunham's Bay wetland. In practice, either that area hasn't been needed and has grown up, or simply folks have been parking on the side of Alexi Lane on the shoulder. And so that area has grown up. This apparently has been occurring for several decades. The town indicated this does not require any approvals from them, and the highway department is comfortable with use of that area along the shoulder. Looking at the amount of parking as represented by Mr. Chris, the landowner, and looking ourselves, there is sufficient parking for the facility. So we were able to confirm that. And with that in mind, we invited Mr. Ethier to come back so we could take a look at his tour boat specifically and the operation that he's looking to do on the waters of Lake George. So with that background, I can see Mr. Ethier is here, and I'd invite you to talk about your application a little bit more.
Hi guys, thanks for having me back. I don't know if I see a lot of the same people, but there's some new people. Just a quick summary of myself, my wife Lisa, who's next to me here. I might break up a little bit. I've been having a lot of problems with internet here, but I'm from Cohoes my whole life. Lisa and I have been together for 38 years. I'm a former police officer. Lisa just retired as a school teacher, and even though not local natives like most of you guys, we still have Lake George has always been in our lives. And what I mean by that is I wanted to show you a picture of me and her. She'll probably kill me for this, but that says Lake George 1983. That was taken in one of the photo booths in downtown, which is still there. Everything but my hair, obviously. But you know, I'm not trying to come in here like gangbusters with, you know, all these tour boats and take over the bay. You know, for the last 5 years, we've actually been living at Dunham's Bay, right across from the marina, and I have several hours on the lake, but we've been living there for 5 years now. We have a boat there already, and it's the same boat that we go in and out of all the time. So just reading the concerns, you know, they were pretty much the same from the last time with congestion and whatnot. We're actually reducing it. If you think about it, we're reducing it. You know, I have 13 people come every weekend and stay with me, and you know, so we're reduced down to about 8 and 1 tour a day. If anything, we're taking people away from Dunham's Bay. We're taking them out of Dunham's Bay. And I just, you know, just reading those concerns, which are also our concerns. I've seen myself where that congestion is coming from. That's coming from the lake, from other areas. They come to Dunham's Bay because it is calm, it is open, it is big. So I think a lot of you with those concerns, you should be focusing on that. I'm actually taking them out of the bay. But with my experience, I have a Coast Guard license. I'm actually in Florida now. I drive in the winter in the Gulf of Mexico, tiki boats. And I as well as in Lake George, I drove the tiki boats, a couple other boat rental tour company or boat tour companies. So I do have a lot of experience with the lake. I have thousands of hours on Lake George alone, actually probably mostly more in the evening than during the day. But with that, we just wanted to start this company. We're here now. We have one boat. We just wanted to put it out, you know, and just have everybody enjoy the lake and actually control it more than it is now. The people that are coming, my handful of clients or customers that come, they're coming anyway. And if anything, to be on the other side of the lake and they'll end up in Dunham's Bay, I'm taking them out of Dunham's Bay. I'm just trying to address your concerns, again, as well as mine. And I think they've all been addressed, and I just ask for your approval for my tour boat.
Thank you. Before I ask for any comments from anyone else in the audience, Dave Wick, we hear in the presentation now and before that this marina that exists for a long time is authorized for 6 charter boats. What exactly does that mean?
I got to turn that over to Joe because he's been studying this and knows more about it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure thing. So when the commission developed its regulations, there were, you know, existing uses on the lake. You think of your larger marinas, those all, you know, pre-existed commission regulation. And just as a means to, you know, pass regulation without taking what people already have or outlawing an existing use, the commission sort of ushered in, you know, those existing uses into a permit program and reviewed them and authorized them by permit. So what we have at Dunham's Bay specifically, we had a marina owner in John Salvador where we had a pre-existing use. He registered that marina with the commission and with those uses. It was under litigation for a long time, unfortunately. But eventually in 2007, after Supreme Court review and lots of scrutiny, the uses at that marina were recognized and memorialized by permit by the commission. And so those are all activities that legally have existed and can continue to exist at this facility by our permit. And what we, currently no one is using or operating a charter at the facility. And so what Mr. Ether is doing, although his operation is new itself, he's trying to fit in a facility that's already authorized for that. And so, from a permit perspective, this doesn't require a marina modification as it's already an authorized use at the facility. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I have one question also for Gary, the applicant. At the prior meeting when we had you presenting for us, there was one local resident who, in my opinion, was confused thinking that you were going to be running a tour boat around the circumference of Dunham's Bay itself, but in reality, you put the paying folks in your boat, exit your dock, and go out of Dunham's Bay and tour the rest of Lake George, and then return straight line basically to Dunham's Bay to your dock an hour or 2 hours later. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I plan on doing, leaving that.
Okay. Are there any comments from the folks attending in support or not in support of this application?
I see Carol Collins' hand up.
Okay, you deal with the folks, Justin.
All right. Carol, you're muted if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi, how are you? Glad to be here today. In knowing this Dunham's Bay operation for a long time, and knowing that when this type of thing comes up, it seems like we have an opportunity to review the marina permit. Someone just says it doesn't require any marina modifications, but the place where they're parking all the cars right now, right in front of where you reside there, where there's the forklift, not a forklift, but a bulldozer that's usually parked there. That's all fill. And I remember a long time ago when it was partially filled and then partially more filled with gravel, etc. And knowing what I do about stormwater, which is considerable, I can't imagine how this is a parking place and how this area could in any way be suitable for car parking, since it can't possibly be an area that's controls stormwater for that particular location. How do you possibly consider any of those parking spots suitable given our stormwater regulations? And how can you possibly add any more car parking there, any more cars to use that area? It doesn't make sense. I know that, Phil. I know when John did the filling of it on 2 different occasions, and it just doesn't work out for me.
Can I answer? Carol, I don't know can I speak?
What's that?
Sure.
Oh, I just want to answer Carol. Carol, I know what you're saying about, and you just brought that to my attention. That's what it must be, the stormwater or runoff from the marina on Bay Road there, Perlo's Marina. I don't know if that's the same water you're talking about, but
No.
where you're talking about the lot behind where I stay across from the hotel, not the marina, right? Is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about the marina? The marina, I'm cutting out, I'm sorry. The marina itself or the parcel of land on Alexi Lane?
Neither.
So perhaps I can jump in real quickly. Mr. Ethier, Are your customers going to be parking in the park commission approved locations in the Marina Permit?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, then for our commissioners' consideration, outside parking questions should not be of consideration for our commissioners now. That facility is authorized for parking. If his customers are going to park there, then that's not the discussion that we're looking at today for Mr. Arthur.
Oh, wait a minute, Dave. So that newly created land where cars are parked, we're talking about the same thing, right? The area that was once, swampland. It's all been filled in. It's where a lot of those cars are parked, basically on the lake, next to the building on the lake. That area is suitable for treating stormwater, and you can actually park cars there legitimately. It's approved. That has the approval by the park commission. So this is a good place so anybody can fill in land in the lake and park cars on it.
I don't.
Perhaps you can jump in real quick and talk about the parking area.
We're talking about different places. Carol, you're talking about the parking that is on the north side of the road, right behind the docks. And I know the history of that land as well, but that's not where Mr. Ethier is proposing to park his cars. He's parking them off of Alexi Lane on the south side of Route 9L, where it is not Phil. That's all part of the.
But that's part of the same marina. Am I right, Bill?
Yes, but it's different parking. It's on the south.
Okay, so Bill, let me
Lane.
explain again.
He's going to have, I think, one extra car in that space, and there are a lot of spaces there. Now, I don't, what you're talking about is scientifically where is good parking, where is not good parking. I would say jamming another car to the north side of 9L on that filled area. I understand your concern, but that's not where he's parking. Am I correct, Mr.
But
Ethan?
when you're opening up an application for a marina, as we are, the park commission has the ability to review the entire permit.
This is not a marina application. This is a tour board application.
I was going to pop in if you could. I was going to pop in. Carol, this is not a marina application. This is an application for a tour boat that is permitted at the marina. So
It's still part of the application.
Wait, hang on. Let me finish, please.
Sorry, I apologize.
Let me finish, please. Yep.
I apologize.
Your points are well taken, but that's not what is before the commission today.
Carla, do you understand though that I know you do because you know the regs. When you're involved in any part of a marina application or a marina's use, that marina use becomes you do have an ability to use it. Would anyone here agree that parking cars in an area that was a lake that's all fill is a good idea? I just really want to know that, just to see if I'm on board there.
Let me interject here. Carol, you're not talking about apples and oranges. You're not talking about the same
No, I don't talk
the
apples and
applicants-
oranges.
You're
No.
not talking about the same location the applicant's talking about. Do you have a question or a comment regarding the application that is in front of the Lake George Park Commission now? Not about the marina, which is an approved marina, which has approved parking. All we're talking about is the parking of one additional car that this applicant is going to use for a permitted use of the application in front of the Park Commission this minute. Do you have a comment about that, please?
Gee, I guess not, Ken.
I mean, we're always glad to hear from you, but I think you're on the wrong side of the road.
I'm not. We've done this when we looked at other marinas before. When there is an adjustment to anything that's going on it, you get the opportunity to review that. And we know that this is a bad way. This is bad lake management when you start parking cars that has no ability for control of runoff in those areas. That's all I'm saying. All I wanted was at least an acknowledgement that maybe this is a bad idea to park cars on the lake, but I don't think I'm going to get that. That's okay, Ken.
Your comments are duly noted and on the record.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? Hearing none, do we have a resolution, Commissioner Stanek?
Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I wanted to say one thing. I did want to say as a commissioner, one comment about this. When we visited the site on Friday and talked about this, and it was about the parking. The only thing I wanted to say to the applicant, I appreciate that you cut back the application. It's substantially different from what you were applying for last fall. I'm still concerned about people who have never been in Dunham's Bay and parking on the other side of Route 9L and crossing it and not being aware that residents many times come tearing around that corner at 55 miles an hour and have to slow down quickly. So please, I believe you're going to pass this time. I'm not sure. I haven't seen other commissioners and what they feel, but I had decided already, or am deciding now, that I will vote in favor of this, but I'm just trying to ask you to please make sure that you communicate to them that it can be a very dangerous crossing when they go from Alexi Road across 9L, especially if they're unaware of it and thinking they're on a day, just one wonderful day out at the lake.
Bill, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And I know we spoke the last time about it. You can't get any closer from that, which is a bad intersection, than I am. I ride my bike there. I run there. I walk there. My family crosses that street. I can't say enough to people, watch the road, watch the road. I usually walk them myself. And I do appreciate that. And just to take it a step further, Bill, from that last conversation, I actually called everyone to find out who actually regulates that. And it is DOT. And I have a name and number actually out of the Albany office whose desk the report would go on to come and look at that intersection for a sign. I'm a big fan of that. A sign, a speed limit sign, just a flashing light like they have in the village, just even temporary during season. I'm all up for that. But it was even recommended that maybe we do it as a group instead of just individual to carry more weight, like maybe some from the hotel, the marina, Freedom Boat Club, yourselves, the Park Commission, and send that to Albany and have them come out and look at that particular road. I'm all in favor. And I have the name right here for you, actually.
Thank you.
Could I make a comment?
Thank
Who is?
Harrison Freer, Town Board of Queensbury. Yeah, I want to echo that parking on Route 9L is an issue, and obviously there's overlapping jurisdiction. The DOT state people asked us to look for parking just further east on Harris Bay, and we just approved the resolution to put up no parking signs on the north side of 9L. So just realize that parking on 9L, while it's, you obviously have some jurisdiction, the town has not necessarily authoritative jurisdiction, but DOT and the town are working together to try to keep that as safe as we can. So.
Thank you, Mr. Freer. Just so that we're all clear, the parking here that we're discussing for this tour boat application is on Alexi Lane, which is on the south side of Route 9L. Is that correct, Joe Tuen?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. Any other comments from folks in the audience about this application? Do we have a resolution, Commissioner Stanley?
Resolution 2022-12, approved tour boat application. Application number is TB 21-4021 SPT. Applicant is Gary Ether. Whereas the applicant has applied for a permit to operate a tour boat, and whereas the Blake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record, and the commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act of 6 NY CRR 617.5, and as lead agency for the purposes of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will no significant impact on the environment, and whereas the action is considered to be a major project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3, public notice has been published and distributed as required. The applicant has demonstrated that the activity complies with the tour boat requirements of 646-1.4 D2. And whereas the commission finds the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential characters of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, will not have an undue visual, cultural, audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby approves the above application as proposed. So moved.
Motion made, motion second. I see a motion second. Any other discussion by the commissioners on the motion made and second? All in favor, please signify. I can't see, so maybe somebody can give me some assistance. Are there any nays? I see none. Seeing no nays, the resolution is approved. And moving on, getting close to the
Just
end
want
of
to
our
say
meeting.
thank you, everybody. And if there's anything, even the neighbors out there,
You're more than welcome. Take good care of your customers. Law Enforcement
approach
Committee
me at any
report.
time. I'm right there for any concerns.
Thanks, everybody. The Law Enforcement Committee met this morning and our lieutenant talked to us about the 2022 season and the newly improved preventive maintenance schedule that he's created, and our parts program and how we obtain parts and how we can save money in getting parts with cooperative buying and such things as that. And also the fact that in the future, we'll talk about a possible creation of a capital fund that would be used to replace patrol motors and boats in the future as they come due. It would be a 5 and 10 year planned out program so that we would carry the expenses each year and have the money when the time has come. We're announcing that the preseason Marine Patrol schedule is being started. Daily patrols will begin on May 1st. And all officers are, good news, returning this year. We do not have the need for any new hires. Reading that, there's a resolution 22-13 I'll read. Whereas the Law Enforcement Committee met via teleconference on March 22nd, 2022 to review matters pertaining to the Lake George Park Commission's Marine Patrol and the Commission's law enforcement program. And whereas active law enforcement cases and their status were reviewed in executive session. And whereas the Law Enforcement Committee has reported on the results of that committee meeting at this full commission meeting, and whereas the Law Enforcement Committee recommends acceptance of this month's law enforcement report, now therefore be it resolved that the commission accepts the report of the Law Enforcement Committee, and I would look for a motion on that. Motion's made, motion to seconded. Any discussion on the report? All in favor, signify please. Any nays? The report is accepted. And we now, as we move into public comments, let me just make one public comment. The Park Commission, in cooperation with the newly created Visitors Interpretive Center, which is located in the lower level of our new building, are talking about an open house sometime towards the end of May. So keep the last part of May open for us so that you can come visit us and help us present our great new building to the world and the Visitors Interpretive Center to the world. Hearing that, Justin, I'll be looking for you from facial assistance on public comments.
Okay. Anybody wish to make a comment? Chris Novitsky, you're muted, but go ahead.
Sorry Sorry about that. Of course, my phone went off right when I unmuted. So thank you very much. And Chris Novitsky, Lake George Waterkeeper. I just wanted to make one point. This is regarding the discussion on the herbicide application, and that I guess there was some confusion on my part because, you know, I was under the assumption that this application, herbicide application, would require a coordinated review with DEC and with the APA. And apparently DEC has issued the permit already, which I just find a little confusing and troubling. We've reached out to DEC expressing concern. I know there's representative of DEC on this meeting. So I just find that a little troubling that that would be issued before public comments were even allowed. That the public comment period really was just announced last week on Wednesday in the environmental news bulletin, and 2 days later the DC issued a permit. So they really didn't have a public comment period. People were aware it was out there, but really wasn't announced until last Thursday or Wednesday. Others who were aware, you know, and have been following this were able to get the information earlier. But so I just think it seems a little rushed, and it seemed there was a lack of coordination. You know, it wasn't a park commission a matter, but you're the applicant, but there was DEC on this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to make a comment?
Move to adjourn.
Motion's been made to adjourn. The motion has been seconded. We stand adjourned until the next time we meet, which hopefully, by the way, may be in a public meeting. We'll all be in the same room, shake hands and say hello. With that, I thank everybody for being here and for your work and for your thoughts, and goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Nighty night.